Have you ever wondered how our world is going to be like in 20, 30 or 50 years? Now that depends on how you choose to treat it now and in the future. I am Sandra Twinobde from Kampala and welcome to this new edition of EcoAfrica, the environmental show brought to you from Uganda, Nigeria and Germany. Joining me today is my co-host Chris in Nigeria. Hi Chris.
Hi Sandra, nice to see you again. Once again, we've got a lot of interesting reports in the show today. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up. In South Africa, we'll learn about how a small tree is making nature and locals happy. In Germany, we'll visit a restaurant trying successfully to produce absolutely no garbage. And EcoAfrica reports from Rwanda about small creepy bats and why we shouldn't be scared of them. As we all know, the world is facing a number of environmental crises. We can't afford to waste any more time when it comes to finding solutions to these problems. Now, one major challenge will be ensuring food security in the decades to come. But to do that, we have to be able to grow food. But that's getting harder all the time. Here is a look at some of the facts.
A single handful of healthy soil is home to more organisms than there are human beings on the entire planet. Soil supplies plants with nutrients and stores water and CO2. It provides the basis for practically all the food we need every day. But the world's healthy farmland is disappearing. Around a third is already degraded. And that leads to crop failures, food shortages, landslides and flooding. 1/5 of the world's population now live and work in areas where farmland is degraded. The biggest threat to the soil ecosystem is erosion. Fertile topsoil is carried away by wind and rain, and human activity has made it much worse. Desertification is increasing. Every 5 seconds, soil is lost on an area the size of a soccer pitch. In parts of sub-Saharan Africa, erosion already accounts for 80% of land degradation. Farming accounts for the largest share of the land we use. Agricultural land covers 5 billion hectares, or 37% of the world's total land surface. Modern agricultural methods damage the land. Intensive farming, monocultures, and industrial livestock production cause nutrient depletion in the soil and thus its degradation. Crop yields are decreasing, while the use of chemical fertilizers and the clearing of land for fields and pastures are increasing, creating a vicious circle. By 2050, the global population is set to rise to around 10 billion. To feed all those people, a lot more fertile land will have to be farmed. People are realizing that healthy soil helps protect the climate. Sustainable farming prevents erosion and keeps nutrients in the soil. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we could increase crop yields by 58% by farming the land more sustainably. That would help ensure food security for future generations.
Soil erosion is indeed a topic worthy of our attention. As we've just seen, the causes are many. But here at EcoAfrica, we're interested in finding solutions to the problems. Our next report comes from South Africa, where a project is working with communities to cover large areas with a common but hardy succulent that has few needs, but many environmental benefits.
This area in South Africa's Klein Karoo was long an important grazing source for wild and domestic animals. Due to overgrazing and erosion, the semi-arid landscape has become severely degraded. Yanni Klute and his team of landscape restorers want to change that. They are planting spekboom here, a hardy shrub that's native to the region.
Spekboom is perfect for us and for the atmosphere. Spekboom removes carbon dioxide from the air and stores it in its leaves. It's a wonderful plant that can withstand long periods of drought.
Klute and his team work for Jobs for Carbon, an initiative launched in the village of Van Beekstorp 7 years ago with the help of seed funding from private donors and government entities. Today, the initiative combines job creation with conservation in the region. Botanist Jan Vlok works with the project, which aims to plant spekboom on 20,000 hectares in the region. The indigenous shrub will help restore local biodiversity and the soil's ability to sustain other plants in the vicinity.
It's a plant with the ability to absorb relatively large amounts of carbon while needing a minimum of water.
From an early age, children in Van Beekstorp learn about the benefits of spekboom. Jobs for Carbon runs an environmental education program in 10 primary schools in the area. The young students learn about the unique system of the Klein Karoo, one of the most species-rich, semi-arid landscapes on the planet. Project manager Ina Schultz believes it's vital to invest in the future of local children.
Nature conservation is critical. It's the legacy we leave our children. They can take ownership of the project and help conserve and protect nature. If we can't take care of our environment, what kind of message are we giving to these children as they head out into the world?
Jobs for Carbon has already provided work for 60 people and replanted 510 hectares. Many private landowners have made a portion of their land available to the project, and a growing number of farmers are willing to sign a contract stating they'll refrain from grazing on replanted land for at least 20 years. Olive farmer Peter Kotsia has taken it a step further, removing cattle and small livestock from 150 hectares to accommodate more spekboom. The project helps provide local people with a secure livelihood, and over a longer term, his farm will benefit.
We fully realize that with rife unemployment in our midst, we're not going to have a happy society. And that's important to us. We want to make sure that this little village becomes a role model to the rest of South Africa as to how commercial agriculture can interact with local communities to make it a better society for all.
For many people in Van Beekstorp, poverty is still a daily reality. Jobs for Carbon is already making a difference. Jannie Klute didn't finish school and was out of work for years. After joining Jobs for Carbon, he was able to pay the fees for his 2 daughters to attend high school and university. And he's happy that his work is benefiting the environment.
I can already see a big difference in the veld where we've already done some planting. 3 years later, there's already a big difference. The shrub grows and then other plants start growing nearby, and soon the veld looks beautiful again. In areas that were dry, it helps bring life back to the veld.
For Jannie Klute, planting spekboom is a way to restore the natural environment while providing a better life for his family. And as the humble spekboom is restored to the area, the local community will continue to reap the benefits.
It's always encouraging to see projects that draw on the power of nature itself to restore some of the damage done to it. Providing a helping hand is the least we can do.
That is right, Chris. Righting the wrongs we've inflicted on Earth is an uphill battle. In Russia, for example, large regions are still coping with the consequences of the Chernobyl disaster that took place over 3 decades ago. But that's not the only ecological man-made mess affecting the health of the country's citizens. We paid a visit to a village near Russia's capital, Moscow.
The fumes from the landfill stink terribly. Your eyes burn, your throat hurts, and you feel sick.
It's as if somebody's pouring water down my throat. It makes me cough and I can hardly breathe.
They say everything's fine, but emergency services have detected levels 25 times over the limit.
It's all because of the dump here.
By here, Yulia Fedoseyeva means about 500 meters from the house where she was born. The Aleksinsky landfill near the village of Novoshapovo is one of dozens around Moscow. It's 32 hectares, or the size of about 45 soccer fields. Only a few years ago, the pit was some 30 meters deep, say local residents. Now it's a hill about 20 meters above ground. And it keeps growing, as do the population's health problems. Yulia Fedoseyeva says that some days it stank so bad she couldn't open her windows. Her children, 8-year-old Ilya and 7-year-old Yaroslava, started getting sick more often. The point came when Yulia couldn't take it anymore. She moved 7 kilometers away from her home village to the town of Klin.
The little ones always had something wrong with them. One day, the pediatrician told me their lungs were making rattling noises. I didn't have to think about it long and started looking for an apartment here in Klin. Later, after the move, we went back to the same doctor and oh, what a miracle, the noises in their lungs were gone. How come? Very simple, we'd moved away from the landfill.
Her case is not an isolated one. Waste disposal is one of Russia's most pressing issues. Greenpeace numbers show less than 4% of waste is processed, and only 2% goes to incineration plants. The rest lands in dumps. Ironically, the country with the largest land area on Earth can't find enough space for the estimated 70 million tons of waste its population produces annually. Moscow's landfills in particular are ticking time bombs. Many of them fail to meet official safety standards, contaminating soil, groundwater, and air. Over and over, local residents have protested, like here in Arkhangelsk. But they rarely see any results. Yulia Fedoseyeva has joined the fight for clean air in her neighborhood. She and her fellow activists pooled their funds and bought a gauge that measures radioactivity, chlorine, hydrogen sulfides, ammonia, and other pollutants.
We use this data to compile what we call a map of the stench for the whole area and then decide if we can go outside with the kids or not.
Their results are alarming. The activists report them to environmental authorities regularly. In 2017, the state emergency services finally had to react and measured levels of hydrogen sulfides 25 times the limit allowed. Activists took the matter to court, but nothing happened. Our reporter contacted the landfill managers and the city of Klin, but received no response. And so, Yulia Fedoseyeva has to consult her gauge before she takes her children outside.
We analyzed the air today. Right now, it looks good, so we can go visit Grandma in Novoshapovo.
Her 67-year-old mother, Valentina Agapova, still lives in their village.
Here, have some tea and sausage.
Her grandchildren like to come and visit, even if only briefly. Her house is perilously close to the landfill, but she has no plans to move.
Where would I go? Who could I sell my house to with all that stench out there? They're not exactly lining up. And how could I live in the city? I only get a pension of around 190 euros, and I'd have to pay 130 euros to rent a one-room apartment.
They visit with Grandma for a couple of hours. Yulia Fedoseyeva shows her kids where they used to live before the wind changes and the smell becomes unbearable again. All her efforts to change things have been for nothing so far.
I don't know how long we can keep on fighting this system. There's not enough of us, and we're starting to feel helpless and desperate.
The mountain of garbage keeps on growing. There are even plans to now expand the Aleksinsky landfill.
Well, the simplest way to reduce the problem of garbage is to stop producing it. It may seem like an impossible dream, but perhaps all it takes is a bit of imagination and a lot of determination. In this week's Doing a Bit, we visit a restaurant in Berlin that put zero waste at the center of its concept.
Fancy some vegan sushi made from pearl barley? Or ravioli stuffed with mashed potato? The Freya restaurant in Berlin is vegan and organic. And it keeps waste to an absolute minimum. It's a combination that makes it the first restaurant of its kind anywhere.
It was a bit of a challenge, first producing everything ourselves in-house, and we also had to find the right partners to deliver what we make with zero plastic packaging.
Every year, people in Germany throw away almost 40 kilos of plastic packaging each, and only 15% is recycled. The only plastic you'll find in Freya is a work of art on the wall. The lampshades are made from mushroom fibers. Vegetable scraps go into a big pot and are made into broth. Then it's used as the basis for a sauce served with a variety of dishes. Potato skins make great chips. For dessert, sorbet made from celeriac, a root vegetable.
You start discovering all kinds of new possibilities. I think, I don't need this, but on the way to the compost, I'll find something else and say, wait, I could do something with them both after all.
Anything that really can't be eaten ends up in a composter, where it's turned into organic fertilizer. This vegan restaurant, committed to sustainability, really does live up to its motto: full taste, zero waste.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
That food looks delicious. Let us leave Europe and return to Africa. Lake Victoria is the largest lake on the continent, and it is shared by Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. The lake is too often used as a dumping area for garbage, plastic waste and sewage. Gas and oil from motorboats also contributes to the problem. But a startup in Kenya is hoping to make a splash by getting more people to convert to their more eco-friendly engines.
Thousands of fishing boats head out onto Kenya's Lake Victoria every day, fueled by expensive and environmentally damaging gasoline. Now, German-Dutch startup Asobo has come up with an electric alternative that is cheaper and causes less air and water pollution.
We are part, like I said, of a larger global movement. Electric mobility on the land, on the water, is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer because we need, as humans, we need to take much more care about our natural environment. Resources are limited, but natural resources in terms of sunlight, for example, are unlimited.
Local fishermen can rent the electric engines for a monthly fee, which includes training, maintenance and a solar-powered charging service. Asobo says the running costs are 25% lower than what it costs for fishermen to run gas-powered motors. The startup offers the fishermen an attractive deal. It's easy and cheap for me because even on a bad day, when we get a small catch or no catch at all, Asobo still gives us the engine and batteries and we can pay later. The startup aims to help massively reduce the negative effects of fossil fuel emissions on the world's second largest freshwater body. East Africa's Lake Victoria, which borders Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, is home to more than 200 plant and animal species. But 76% of endemic fish species are at risk of extinction. This also threatens the survival of some 15 million people who directly or indirectly depend on Lake Victoria.
Now let's head to our neighboring country, Rwanda. Environmentalists there are worried about the decline of birds living in Lake Kivu region. The scary little creatures are hunted and lose more and more of their natural habitats.
That's so true, Sandra. And even if bats may be making negative headlines at the moment, As a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the diseases they can carry, they play an important part in the ecosystem, which is why the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association is sharing that message with school kids and local communities.
Swarms of bats swoop over the Rwandan town of Ruhango. The winged creatures are far from popular here. Many residents are afraid of them and believe they bring bad luck. This tree is being cut down to deprive them of a place to live. An action that has the support of many locals. These bats go into our farms for food, damaging what we have grown. You can start in this woodland and see what condition it's in. So it's better not to see them here. Conservationists like biologist Marie-Claire Dusabe take a different view. They say bats play an important ecological role by spreading seeds in their droppings. Ruhango is home to the straw-colored fruit bat, a species that is under threat. Dusabe's team estimates there are some 17,000 of them here.
The number of straw-colored fruit bats are decreasing because we have been finding people cutting down trees as landowners. For example, you can see someone there cutting down a tree. So if they cut down trees, bats tend to go outside of this colony.
The total bat population in Rwanda is estimated at 70,000, spread across 15 different colonies. One of them is in the Samatare cave, some 60 kilometers outside the capital, Kigali. The site is located near water and is difficult to access. Even in non-pandemic times, you'd have to wear a mask here to protect yourself from the viruses bats carry. The cave is home to the bulldog bat. Especially active at night, their diet consists mainly of insects. An examination of their droppings yields more information.
These insectivorous bats, they really contribute a lot to agriculture sectors while destroying insect pests. For example, here in east of Rwanda, we found that 60% of the diet of this species are insect pests that destroy agriculture crop pests.
Back to Ruhango in the south of the country. At this school, today's biology class has a special focus. Marie-Claire Dusabe is explaining how important bats are for people. Many of the pupils appear surprised. Still, there are some well-founded fears of bats, especially when they get close to people. We understand that bats are very important in nature, but how can we live with them in our homes? Knowing that they carry viruses, as they often come to live in the roofs of our homes. Do everything possible and let it go peacefully. And then you have to check if it has left anything somewhere. Then clean without touching it. Those working to protect the bats use gloves to collect their droppings. They contain fruit seeds, giving the researchers an insight into the plants and trees the animals are especially fond of. These are then cultivated in tree nurseries, to be replanted later in the region around Lake Kivu.
Some of these trees are a result of seeds that came from bat poop. We plant them here because we want to contribute to bat foraging site and root site.
The idea is to compensate the bats for the living space humans have deprived them of elsewhere.
We've come to the end of this edition of EcoAfrica. We hope you found today's stories inspiring, and of course, we're looking forward to having you all again next week. I am Sandra Twinobio, signing off from Kampala here in Uganda.
And it's also time for me to say so long. But don't forget, you can always get in touch with us on our social media channels. We really enjoy hearing from you. And do be sure to join us again next week. Till then, I am Chris Elem saying goodbye from Lagos, Nigeria.